What is up, YouTube? It's your boy God King FUTS, and we're here today to go over the top 10 tips and tricks for the Halo Infinite multiplayer flight aimed at beginner players with some bonus tips on top. There will be an advanced tips and tricks to follow this one. If you want to learn how to do things like BXB, flag push, or some of the more disrespectful plays that Halo Infinite's fantastic sandbox will allow you to do, feel free to check out both videos for the full experience. Now, we all know the Halo flight came, shocked us all, and left just as quickly, so I thought I would use my 20 years of Halo experience as an Onyx level player in free-for-all for Halo 5 to bring some of the new players up to speed with these easy tips and tricks.
Kick off the training wheels, Corporal. He's good to go.
So starting us off with an easy tip is going to be understanding the difference between shields and health and how they work in Halo games. Now, Halo popularized the regenerating health mechanic, but there's even more to it than that. And this video is going to be packed with a whole bunch of bonus tips, so take these all as one general tip on shield versus health, okay? Essentially, each player is going to have a shield that regenerates lost health if you can avoid damage for a few seconds. But even more importantly is when your shields are gone, your health will begin to take damage. When your health runs out, that's game over for you. Once an enemy player's shields have run out, any precision weapon in the game will earn you a kill with a headshot. You can recognize how damaged a player's shield is by the red highlights around their player. A bright red player indicates a low or almost non-existent shield, and a headshot will deplete their opponent's health instantly. Once a player's health begins to take damage, you'll notice a flash and a light static around the player in place of the bright red to indicate that the shield is completely gone. Now, if you're a pro player, getting a headshot is probably going to be the most efficient way to finish off your opponent. But this is Halo, and this is a beginner's tips and tricks video, and there are a million different ways to finish off an opponent in Halo. A bright red player will die to a headshot, but will also die to a single melee attack or a well-placed frag grenade. Since you spawn with grenades and every player can melee on command, these are easy go-tos for finishing off opponents. Every weapon in Halo's sandbox has a unique role to play. For example, plasma weapons will take out shields more quickly than ballistic weapons, but ballistic weapons will take out an opponent's health more quickly than plasma. For example, a plasma pistol will have a long time to kill on its own. However, overcharging a blast will annihilate an opponent's shields, leaving them open for an easy cleanup with any of Halo's many precision weapons. Electric energy weapons like the shock rifle or dynamo grenades have also replaced the overcharged plasma pistol's EMP abilities when it comes to vehicles. In classic Halo, hitting a vehicle with an overcharged plasma pistol will have the EMP effect and disable the vehicle for a couple of seconds. So as a driver, you just need to know when to abandon or when to sit tight to wait for the effects to wear off. Just be careful, because a static vehicle is a marksman's dream when it comes to Halo. The next thing a new player should know is how the weapon pads work. This might seem obvious, but it's mind-blowing how often the weapon pads get completely ignored when even lower tier weapons can drastically change the outcome of a fight. Every weapon pad, equipment pad, and vehicle pad in Halo has a blue bar that slowly begins to fill whenever the item is picked up. This acts as the item's respawn timer, so once the blue bar is full, a new item will spawn in its place, with the exception of the red hologram. A red glowing hologram indicates when a weapon has a limited amount that can be in the game at one time and is still currently in play. For example, here, one of my teammates is holding the heat wave, but when they run out of ammo or the weapon despawns, a new one will appear here on the weapon rack. Which leads me into my next tip, the weapon rooms. Now, like I said before, each weapon in Halo's sandbox serves a purpose, and none are useless in the right hands. Head under your base at the beginning of a big team battle to find an arsenal that for whatever reason the other players will generally walk right past. You'll find short, medium, and long range weapons here, as well as equipment like a grapple shot or perhaps a few grenades. Halo matches are often determined by which team holds the power weapons, so swapping out a starter weapon for the shotgun or a grapple hook at the beginning of each match will put you at a pretty big advantage compared to players who walk right past them. My next big tip for Halo players of all skill levels is reload often and reload always. Obviously, you're going to want to have a full magazine going into your next gunfight, but what a majority of players don't realize is it takes longer to reload if you empty your entire magazine than it does if you reload before the magazine is empty. Here with the AR and the BR, you can see that you pull back the charging handle if you unload the entire magazine. But for most guns in Halo, reloading before the magazine is empty actually skips that animation, like the sidekick, which doesn't require you to pull back the slide. But even quicker than reloading is swapping weapons. Halo introduced the two-weapon system to first-person shooters, so relying on a prudent two-weapon combination is key. Ran out of ammo trying to mow down an opponent with your potato aim? Swap to your other weapon to clean up the kill. It'll be much faster than reloading the current weapon that's in your hand, especially given that the weapon's magazine is completely empty. The sidekick is a great tool for cleaning up those easy headshots. This next tip might sound obvious to some of you, but you'd be surprised how many people pay no attention to their radar in Halo. You need to be able to read it effectively, and any high-level player is going to tell you that it's more than just a blue circle and a couple of red dots. I can't tell you how many times I'm in a match with a player who's not paying attention to their radar, and believe me, I will make them pay. Like these guys right here, had no idea they walked right past me, but since I was looking at my radar, I was able to make them pay with a quick triple. Astute players will quickly realize that there's more to the radar than just simple blips. Crouching effectively removes you from the radar, allowing you to set up situations like this, where players outside have no idea that I'm camping the door with a gravity hammer. They're paying attention to this other player here, allowing me to easily clean up a couple of kills. I've also heard some players complaining about the lack of indicators on your radar for enemy players that are above or below you. Enemy players that are on the same vertical level as you will have blips that are slightly larger than the other blips. You could almost say that they're glowing. Now, the more refined blips are going to indicate enemy players that are above or below you, and most maps in Halo are only going to have 2 levels in any particular area of the map. So, if you're on one level and the enemy player is on a different level, process of elimination, right? Once you understand all this, your next best thing to do to improve is to learn your map. Trust me when I say that you don't want to be the only player not paying attention to their radar. Not only does it tell you where the enemy players are, it also tells you which direction your teammates are no matter how far away they might be, giving you a better idea of which direction the fight is. Astute players will notice that where your teammates are not are likely where your enemies are spawning. It's also going to tell you where enemy vehicles are just outside of the boundaries of your radar, whether or not they're on your level. To get an idea of how much the radar actually tells you, watch this clip right here. I began by firing at the player with a rocket launcher when I realized there's another player sneaking up on me from behind for the one-hit kill assassination. Notice the slightly fuzzier blip indicating that they're on my vertical level. So, in order to avoid getting ambushed from behind, I chased the rocket player to the lower level. Notice how the blip loses its glow? Now that the player was hoping for a one-hit easy kill, so he's going to chase me to the bottom floor. Notice how the glow returns to the blip. Now I know he's chasing me, so I can predict when he's going to come in for the assassination and easily outmaneuver him because I was paying attention to my radar. Some people might complain about the radius of the radar, which is a legitimate complaint, but at the end of the day, it's made for close quarters combat. Which brings me to my next point, knowing your range. Halo Sandbox uses all kinds of interesting physics to make weapons a perfect balance, and every weapon has an effective range. This goes double for weapons that use the tracking, like the pulse carbine or the needler. If a weapon is built for medium range, it might not be useful at close or long range. Conversely, a weapon that might be useless at medium to long range might be absolutely unstoppable at short range. The game's map design will subtly reward players for understanding their weapon's effective range. Bazaar is the best example, given that the pulse carbine generally spawns right beside your team's spawn zone, but I never see enemies picking it up. Using the pulse carbine on these walkways puts your enemies at the perfect range for the tracking to take effect, yet I never see any players using it effectively. It's a beautiful tool for map control when you want to suppress your enemies on the opposite walkways, and enemies who aren't paying attention will pay for it with their lives. Kind of going along with my tip about knowing the maps, on the big team battle map Fragmentation, you're going to find a loot cave. Now, I can only assume that this is exclusive to big team battle, but around halfway through the map, up against the wall, approach this terminal here and follow the prompt to allow your AI to hack the door. Stay within close proximity of the door, and when the hack is complete, you'll get access to a small loot cave, usually with a power weapon, grenades, and equipment. Usually there's an overshield or an active camo near the back, and there's maybe a sniper rifle, a rocket launcher, a skewer, or maybe a gravity hammer near the front. Following this ramp up to a platform that is rarely used and therefore rarely checked by other players gives you the high ground to use your new fancy power weapons effectively with. That leads me to another tip, remember the high ground. It's always going to be easier to fight a player from atop than it will be from underneath. It's also a lot easier to get behind cover in case you're losing a gunfight. Quick tips, this is especially useful with power weapons like the rocket launcher. Which sort of springboards into my next, more concrete tip about maps. Learn your maps. Find out where the weapon spawns are, find out where the busiest areas are, and where the high ground is. When you get killed, try to think of where the enemy player was and if they took advantage of your positioning in order to get the kill. Do this enough times and I promise you'll be able to tell pretty quickly where the strongest lines of sight are on the map. For example, on recharge, I love heading up to the top doorways where the BR and Commando spawns. You can see most of the map from either side of these locations, and it's easy to back out of a losing gunfight as well. You have a nice heads up if players are sneaking around from behind, and staying here with a teammate will ensure that your enemies continue to spawn on the opposite side of the map. My next beginner tip is less of a gameplay tip and more of a common sense thing. Infinite's progression system doesn't give per game XP, but instead allows you to complete challenges to earn XP to level up. The game also provides you with XP boosts that will boost the amount of XP you've earned for a half an hour. Whenever possible, you'll want to activate these XP boosts before completing larger challenges or at the beginning of a new set of challenges so you can maximize your XP earned. At least as far as the flight is concerned, once you run out of challenges, you get limited to complete X number of games challenges, or win X number of games challenges to earn XP, and it becomes an absolute grind. Waiting until then to use these XP boosts is a complete waste. Now, moving on, let's talk equipment. 343 added multiple new types of equipment to use on the battlefield in Halo Infinite, and take it from someone who was incredibly skeptical of the grapple shot footage we saw in the campaign preview earlier this year. I can definitely now say that the grapple shot is one of my favorite additions to the sandbox in Halo Infinite. Not only can the grapple shot be used to maneuver around the map, it can also be used to hijack vehicles. Any enemy vehicle that you can successfully hit with the grapple shot will automatically turn into a hijacking animation. When you get close enough to the vehicle, the animation will begin and it becomes yours. Now, a little bit of a bonus tip here, but the best and most overpowered part of the grapple shot is that when you get hijacked yourself out of your vehicle, there is no cooldown between when you get ejected from the vehicle and when you can actually launch your own personal equipment. Normally, you wouldn't be able to jack the person back unless they stayed close enough to you for a few seconds. There is a cooldown effect. However, with the grapple shot, the moment you're ejected from the vehicle, you can immediately return the favor. But the amazing sandbox capabilities of the grapple shot do not stop there. You can even use the grapple shot to collect power weapons and equipment. This makes for some hilarious moments when the enemy will rush a power weapon, but you can wait just out of reach and quickly steal the weapon before they can get to it. You can even grab active objectives like a flag and capture the flag. Once the flag has been picked up, it is subject to all kinds of fun physics in the Halo sandbox, some of which we'll go over in the advanced tips and tricks. But for now, just know that the grapple shot will be able to grab it. One of my favorite things to do is when you see a player who may be going after the same vehicle being dropped from a Pelican in big team battle, you can easily guarantee that you get the vehicle before then by grapple jacking it before it touches the ground. It's not exactly going to make you any new friends, but it will give you that competitive edge. Another pro tip that I was going to say for my advanced tips and tricks video is to swap seats when you grapple jack onto a Warthog. Let's say a Warthog is driving by, then you take out the gunner, but then the driver keeps on driving the Warthog. Switching seats to the passenger seat will put the driver into melee range, and a quick 1-2 smack, before you know it, you'll be driving away in your very own fancy Warthog, and they'll be facing the respawn screen. So just because the grapple shot might be my favorite piece of equipment, it doesn't mean that you should sleep on the other pieces of equipment if the grapple shot isn't available. The repulsor, for example, is a hilarious addition to the sandbox physics in Halo Infinite. Able to launch vehicles away and even launch you high into the air when you're facing down, you can use it to repulse projectiles or grenades. The possibilities are absolutely endless in Infinite Sandbox. Even the more obscure pieces of equipment like the threat sensor can be absolutely amazing in the right circumstances. Shooting one into an area will light up all enemy Spartans through walls the same way that you can see your teammates, letting you know their exact position, opening the door for an easy grenade kill while they take cover. Your teammates can also see the same thing that you can, turning the tide of a fight pretty quickly, especially with a coordinated team. Doing this in the narrow corridors of the new big team battle map is a great way to turn the fight and push the enemy back. And then last, but certainly not least, just like every other shooter in video game history, teamwork makes the dream work. Teaming up with teammates can be a force multiplier and is often the difference between winning a game or being swept with a Steaktacular. Take it from me, this is going to be one of the biggest skill gaps in Halo. I was an Onyx rated free-for-all player in Halo 5, but I consistently get spanked by coordinated teams in Team Slayer in just high diamond tiers. I might be good enough to win most of my one-on-one fights in a Team Slayer match, but a coordinated team will never allow that to happen. No matter how many times I think I'm catching a player lacking away from their team, a coordinated teammate will always be in there to clean up the kill. Every fight is a 2-on-1, and once you get to a certain level in Halo proficiency, a 2-on-1 fight is just not doable unless you have a power weapon. These teamwork related tips are going to go doubly when it comes to objective game types. Every once in a while in a big team battle, you might catch a single player being able to capture a flag on their own, but it is a very, very rare occurrence. And two players with a mongoose and a little bit of coordination can do the work of an entire team. And with that, guys, there goes my top 10 tips and tricks for the Halo Infinite multiplayer flight. Since the timing of the flight was limited, I couldn't get every possible tip into this video, and the video is long enough already. So stay tuned for the advanced tips and tricks if you guys want to see more, and when Halo launches, plenty more content like this in the future. God knows I worked my ass off to put this particular video together, as you can see from this clip here, just in order to get the flag grapple clip that I wanted to show you guys. But with that being said, I hope you drop a like if you liked what I did today and sub to the channel for more content in the future. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and don't forget to stay classy, YouTube. And just one more quick thing before you guys go. Now, I know you've heard every YouTuber on the planet say this, but here goes my turn. We are at 800, almost 900 subscribers, which on the grand scheme of things, we know is not that much. However, it is way bigger than I thought I'd ever get my personal YouTube career to be. So thank you to every single one of you beautiful motherfuckers who came through and smashed that subscribe button to show your boy a little bit of love. And so what I did to pay it forward was I went out and I got myself a brand new laptop. I got myself Adobe Premiere, so we're in the big leagues now for video editing. I got the Ubisoft Blackout Yeti microphone, bring you guys a little bit higher quality audio for future content, so I hope you guys did appreciate it. God knows I appreciated every single one of you. But with that being said, once again, guys, drop a like if you liked what I did today and hit subscribe for more content in the future.
Oh, I know what the ladies like.